What's up everybody, we are Deanna and Phil. Deanna's from the United States and I'm from Germany, and in this video we're gonna talk about this German's first impressions about the state of Florida. So we drove from South Carolina for a road trip to famous Florida. And this was my very first time ever in Florida, and as a German or foreigner, it is one of the best known states in the US. Maybe because there's Disney World on all the other parks, also Florida Man, and of course Miami is also one of the best known cities. So I was pretty excited to finally see it in the flesh.
I was really excited for Phil to see Florida. I lived in Florida for a bit when I was a wee child, and it's a state that my family went back to often for vacations. This trip was one of those trips where nothing went according to plan. Our car broke down, I got food poisoning. All in all, we had to change our trip around a little bit.
So we went on this trip to look at Florida as a potential state to live in someday, because on paper it has some things going on for itself. Like the warm weather, no income tax, and not the highest cost of living compared to other states like California. But I also had some concerns about the state prior to our trip. So here are my impressions on a couple of topics after visiting Florida. Let's see if reality matched the expectations. So we're starting with point number one, bugs and alligators. Everyone knows about Florida alligators. I was so excited to finally see a real alligator.
It's just gator. We just say gator.
Alright, gators. But one concern I had was about bugs and animals in general. Because I'm not a fan of weird bugs. Back in Germany, we barely have any of those crazy ones. And then on the internet, of course, you see all these crazy gator videos, walking on golf courses, in the pools everywhere, in the backyards, just gators galore. So of course I expected to see gators, and I got mentally ready to face the bugs as well. But to my surprise, I did not see a single gator while in Florida. And the reason probably was because we mainly went to urban areas. Deanna kept telling me I'm probably not gonna see one, and she was right.
Say it again.
She was right! Over our 10-day trip, I did not see a single gator in Florida.
I finally saw a gator. There's one. There's another one. And then over there, they have more of them, gators.
However, I saw multiple just a couple days after we left in South Carolina, actually.
Alright, here's the first gator that Phil is seeing in the US. And we're not in Florida, we're in South Carolina.
Does he think we're small enough for prey?
Maybe. I spy with my little eye a gator. Look at his nostrils flaring. He's chilling under the stalk.
And considering the bugs, it was actually very bearable. We had decent, not great, but decent accommodations. And I guess that's the most important thing when it comes to the bug problem in Florida. So that was kind of a bit of a relief for me. And now I think I could live there in a normal urban area despite the crazy reputation for all the bugs.
You don't understand. He literally inspects every bug, takes videos of spiders, freaks out about them. He was very concerned about the bugs.
Just don't like you. Point number two is the heat.
Florida is known for heat and humidity all year round. The summer is actually known to be the worst time to travel to Florida or be in Florida. I figured if Phil could stand Florida at its worst, then it could only get better. Except then there's hurricane season and all, so.
That's funny to hear as a German. Summer's the worst time. Before that, we stayed in South Carolina and it was very hot for weeks already. Then we planned to go to Florida in August. And everybody we told that was like, oh my God, August? It's like they acted like we're gonna go up in flames or something. I mean, maybe it was just the time period, but it mainly was in the mid-80s.
Yeah.
And from my subjective perception, the humidity was not worse than it was in South Carolina either. So maybe we were just lucky with the timing, but the whole thing about the crazy heat, that was just not true for me at that time.
I think we got really lucky with the weather.
Point number three, Florida is known of is the old people, the retirees, the snowbirds. Another thing that you hear again and again is that Florida is full of old people. And we went to Ocala, Tampa, St. Petersburg, Clearwater, Orlando, and St. Augustine. And my impression of the demographic was actually very good. So I had no impression of this entire retiree snowbird thing. Granted, we didn't visit Sarasota and other stereotypical old people areas, but the cities we went to actually have a lower age average than all of Germany. So Florida, for me, pretty young.
Yeah, I mean, we were in cities, so it's way more of a mixture of age demographics. Urban areas in the US tend to be younger in general compared to rural areas. I also think our perception of old may have increased after spending COVID in a small town in Germany where the average age demographic is 47. No lie, I looked that up.
Ah, it feels like 87 though. Before we continue with the video, I wanted to remind you, please take a quick moment and like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and if you want to further support us, you can do that on patreon.com/DeannaandPhil. And today we want to shout out our family level Patreons.
A big thank you to Marcus Ottensman, Fred42, Ethan Mitchell, Heather Kuffner, Hessen Metro, Jay Reed, Shar Mills, Tarek Malkosh, Stephanie Vend, Jörg Michels, Megan Rosati, Shannon Bradley, Sean and Alex, Klaus Izard, Holden Gilbert, and Jutta and Wolfgang Volkner.
Yeah, big thank you to you guys, but now back to the video. Impression number 4 is about hurricanes.
We fortunately did not experience any hurricanes at the time, but I have experienced them as a kid in Florida and also in South Carolina. The entire evacuation process can be very frightening, overwhelming, and well, just tedious.
Yeah, I can barely imagine how that must be. However, Florida had another very strong weather impression on me. The weather just changes so quickly. It went from blasting sunshine to blasting rain where you can't see further than 10 feet, back to blasting sunshine within an hour, again and again.
It's raining in Florida. We just arrived.
It's very typical.
Oh, it stopped raining.
It starts and stops. 2 seconds.
It felt a bit like nature was letting me feel, like on a smaller scale, what it is capable of in that state, but no hurricane. Point number 5 is about the famous Florida man, or just crazy people. And I have seen some fun-looking people in Florida, but to be honest, not that many. And nothing too crazy happened in front of our eyes, so Florida man, if you're out there, I'd still like to meet you.
No, you don't.
I don't?
No.
Impression number 6. Is Orlando just Disney World?
Most people associate Orlando with Disney World, Universal, and all of the other parks. Whenever we talk about Orlando with other people, 9 times out of 10, they just reference the parks and have never stepped foot in the city of Orlando. And while the parks are a big part of the city, there's more to Orlando as well.
Yes, Orlando was my favorite city in Florida, and we haven't even been to any of the parks. It felt like it has a flourishing food culture, plenty of international cuisine and people, a chill and vibey downtown area, especially in the evening, and many decent neighborhoods as well. I was actually surprised that I liked Orlando better than Tampa, but yeah, Orlando is definitely not just Disney World. My impression number 7 is about Disney Springs and St. Augustine. Speaking of Disney though, we visited Disney Springs, or formerly Disney Downtown, and I want to put this in one category with St. Augustine, and here's why. Disney Springs, as well as St. Augustine, are these city-like downtown areas that I was hoping to find in actual US cities. You know, like the European walkable pedestrian zones with a lot of flair and culture.
So this is what I was hoping the average American city would look like in the center. But no, it's just part of Disney World.
They built these artificial places like Disney Springs or the center of St. Augustine that are exactly that. The only problem is it is not very livable, but it's just a touristy day trip destination with masses of people passing through. So my favorite US city center was probably the square in Disney Springs.
Oh my god. I mean, Disney is one entity benefiting greatly from people enjoying the world that they've built. And I remember when I visited small towns in Germany, I said it looked like Disney. One, because a lot of German towns are quaint, walkable, and visually very appealing. And 2, because a lot of Disney stories were based on Grimm fairy tales, which were written by the Grimm brothers, who are from Germany. So a lot of Disney films as well as Disney parks have some German and European flair.
That's why they're so beautiful. All right, the next impression that I had is a little bit weird, but people being very political.
One impression that we both had was that Florida seemed very openly political. In South Carolina, people will have stickers and flags sometimes, but it was at least 3 times more in Florida.
So while driving into Florida, especially in the small towns and on lots like in the bushes, there were a lot of Trump 2024 signs, which to me as a person from another country is just baffling.
There were also a good amount of Biden signs in other areas. I just wonder if either of those signs do more good or harm overall.
Impression number 9 is flat land and so many swamps.
Florida has beautiful beaches and it is also very flat. It has a lot of swamps as well.
Yeah, I have no idea how people in the past built entire cities and theme parks on this swampland. I love how green it is though, and I don't really mind the humidity. I actually prefer it over dry heat. Impression number 10, I'm gonna call Mad Max vehicles. So Florida has this reputation of having horrible drivers. Even worse than the US average is already. I'm gonna be ripped apart for this.
Yeah, you're canceled. I was pretty stressed driving all the time in Florida, especially in the city premises. I feel like a lot of the people are always going extra fast when you are close to a city. I much preferred driving up in the DC traffic area than in Florida. I felt that it was more organized to me than the city traffic in, say, Tampa or Orlando.
Yeah, and aside from the weird driving in the city premises, we saw some pretty unique vehicles. Like from Trump trucks to armored Mad Max looking vehicles. And all of them have these deeply black tinted windows, which makes driving so much less personal in my opinion. And the vehicles almost feel a little bit more intimidating because of that. You never know what the other driver is doing or looking at the time. But hey, in the end, I assume Florida is just one of the states that gives you the most leeway for expressing your freedom. So good for you, Florida. And the last thing I noticed big time is that cars are still very necessary even if you live in a city.
Yeah.
So we visited a few cities, and even in the big ones, a car is still very, very necessary. We didn't make it down to Miami, so maybe you could live there not being so reliant on a car. I don't know, let us know in the comments if you could live in Miami like without a car.
It seems like even if you could afford to live in the ridiculously expensive areas of downtown, that a car is still necessary to go to the grocery store, popular areas, gyms, and other stuff. This is just how most of the US layout is, aside from some very special exceptions like Chicago or New York, San Francisco Bay Area, or so.
Yeah, those were my impressions and reality checks for the state of Florida, man. Let us know with which ones you agree, and please try not to be that butthurt.
As always, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
A big thank you to everyone who watches our videos and supports us, and a special thank you to our patrons for supporting us and helping us to make videos like these. And we'll see you in the next video. Bye!